Good morning. Today I'm going to talk through my story of shift in identities and the theoretical frameworks that have helped me to make sense of this identity fluidity using autoethnography. To explore the narrative, I'm going to refer to insights from Goffman, 1963, and Tajfel Turner, 1979. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. And these are both researchers who've explored in depth what our social selves mean. And this is a key focus of my PhD. So Tajfel and Turner's work on social identity theory provides a lens to view how our group affiliations make up a significant part of our self-concept. And this is where we gain pride, a sense of belonging from. Goffman's theories, on the other hand, explore the roles we play and the masks that we wear, especially when our daily realities don't quite align with our perceptions of societal expectations. And this is known as stigma theory. I'll be delving deeper into stigma theory throughout this presentation because the flip side of belonging, so to these social groups, is exclusion. Although exclusion can happen as a result of others excluding you from a social group through the concept of in-groups and out-groups, which is part of the work of Tajfel and Turner, we're also very capable of excluding ourselves when we perceive ourselves to not be embodying the social norms of an important group. This is called voluntary exclusion, and this is where we exclude ourselves when we feel our identity is diminished, and this is in anticipation of being excluded, especially in relation to sport, and this relates to the work of Thedinga, Zell and Thiel 2021, which we'll be talking about in the next few slides. So this is also profoundly related to Cooley's 1902 looking glass self, and this is where Cooley suggests that our self-concept is significantly shaped by how we believe others perceive us. And hopefully this will all come clear as we move through our slides. So this graph illustrates the shift from being a sort of balanced academic and sporting identity to a period of significant divergence. Since 2013, I've competed in triathlons of various distances. It was very much a lifestyle for me. I live for the endorphins, the communitas. I really like the social aspects of things, but also I really enjoyed the sport. Parallel to this, I maintained an academic identity, and balancing both was manageable because my academic commitments were part-time. The blue and grey lines on the chart you can see here estimate the hours I spent per year in each role, and these are based on Strava logs and academic records. So from 2016 to 2020, you can see that they were my academic identity was stable, and more or less stable were my sporting hours with a little bit of fluctuation. Strava was my digital scrapbook at the time, recording every workout. It became incredibly addictive. I'd always wanted to improve. So not just from a social perspective, I used this as a training log for myself. In 2016, a shoulder injury severely restricted my swim training. So you can see here, when I got to 2017, it tailed off after that because the swimming Ironman 70.3 Lati was a turning point for me because it was incredibly difficult. So from this point, I decided to become a coach to maintain my triathlon identity whilst recovering. So again, is an example of social identity in action. You'll see an uplift in hours from 2018 to 19 as I returned to compete in Ironman Vichy in 2019. However, after this race, I became seriously ill and I took a step back from triathlon at this point. I did carry on with ultra marathons and marathon training, but because I didn't want to go into the water because I'd had an issue in the water in the last race in terms of contracting a virus. This kind of epic, distance did help with the trying to maintain my identity because I saw it as epic as an Ironman. In 2020, COVID hit and it diminished the social aspects of my sporting identity as races were cancelled. I started a PhD in January 2020, and this academic identity started to grow as my sporting identity, you can see, started to tail off at this point. As my academic identity grew, I took on a course leader role, and you can see where the hours grew in this yellow box, and it consumed my life. I did think I could manage doing everything, but unfortunately I was wrong, and I've learned my lesson on that. The irony of researching and writing about the importance of sport while my participation waned is not lost on me. This then started to create feelings of being an imposter, and this started to undermine my academic identity, because how could I justify using autoethnography if sport was no longer my lived experience? If it was just a lack of physical activity, I'm sure the extent of my sports identity loss wouldn't have been quite so significant. Physical appearance is absolutely crucial in sport, especially within triathlon groups. And according to Thedinga et al. 2021, it can lead to discrimination and stigma when people are overweight. This highlights Goffman's Stigma Theory and its application to sport. Personally, when I'm overwhelmed, I comfort myself with food. I do comfort eat. And this has led to weight gain because I've been inactive doing my research and focusing on this academic identity. This then, combined with a lack of fitness because I'm not training, led me to withdraw from my sports groups due to a perceived judgment by my peers. And this is known as self-exclusion. So my withdrawal was based on my perceptions and not anyone else making me feel this way. So it's really interesting to see this. Cooley's Looking Glass Self, which I've given you an example on the screen here, shows how different contexts shape our identities based on how we believe others see us, and involves three main components. So the first is imagining how we appear to others. This involves thinking about how others view us. And in my case, it relates to how I imagine my sports peers see my capabilities and commitments. As an Ironman, I feel included from a distance, but my current physicality makes me feel excluded up close. And it was something that came to the fore this weekend at Ironman 70.3 Mallorca, because I didn't feel like I belonged as part of that group because of my physical appearance. In contrast, my academic identity is defined by intellectual contributions, not physical appearance, and the fact that I'm studying my PhD was helped with the authenticity of this identity. Then we've got imagining how others judge this appearance, and this involves assessing others' judgments based on how we think they perceive us. For example, my injuries and decreased participation led me to believe that my peers may think I'm less capable due to weight gain and lack of fitness. And this influenced my self-perception and identity. However, the converse was true as part of my academic identity, because I felt like I was being validated within those groups. So a sports identity requires time and consistency to maintain an athletic image, and this was something I struggled with at the time. And then finally, we've got the emotional response to the imagined judgments, and this includes feelings like pride or embarrassment, and this can impact our self-concept. I felt inadequate as my sports identity waned, but I received intellectual validation from my academic peers, which this motivated me to increase my time within this identity. However, this shift really did come at a price. I then started to think, I'm writing about sport using autoethnography, but I don't have the lived experience. And this was something that began to start to undermine my academic identity. I started to feel a lack of authenticity in my writing, and I needed to make an adjustment so I didn't lose both identities, because this would have been catastrophic for me. The interesting thing I've discovered through charting the hours I spend in each role is that research requires long periods of time sitting, which detracts from the activities that make us healthy. The negative impact of a sedentary lifestyle on physical and mental health is really widely recognised, especially in academia. We're constantly advised to exercise more to avoid these issues, but that's easier said than done. And I've given some examples here on the screen. By exploring my lived experience of identity fluidity through autoethnography, I've recognised that my sports and academic identities require significant time investment, but in conflicting ways. One for reading and writing, which promotes that sedentary lifestyle, and the other for training, which requires hours away from home, which means I can't sit at my computer and study. If I were researching a different topic, this may not be quite such a conflict. However, sport is intricately woven into my personal and academic identity, and autoethnography is my preferred methodology. So I really do need to rebalance this to be able to have some sort of authenticity in my writing. To maintain and achieve these identities in tandem, I had to step away from the demanding nature of full-time academia. What I could only describe as an insatiable machine left me feeling really drained due to its relentless demands. It's just constant. However, I do still maintain some academic identities through part-time teaching work as an hourly paid lecturer. So I feel that the balance kicks in there. Researching the benefits of sport and being told by countless sources that physical activity is good for mental health has been a real wake-up call. And I'm now using technology, things like Speechify, to read articles to me whilst I walk or drive. And this helps balance my research time with physical activity, and it's now starting to feel authentic again. I've also started coaching again after a short break, and this then enhances my PhD work again, even though you could probably call it a distraction. And this is a really important lesson that I've learned. Hopefully my identity journey highlights the intricate relationships between personal choice and social frameworks. So Goffman, Tajfel Turner, Cooley, Thedinga et al. They've all helped me understand the shift between my sports and academic identities over time, highlighting fluidity. Interestingly, if you'd have asked me, would I have ever lost my sports identity a year or two ago, I would have vehemently said no, because it's a defining feature of not just myself, but also my family. It's part of our lifestyle, part of our identity. And this is the first key takeaway for me, is that identity is fluid. It's really helped me to understand by situation my story within the literature. Through autoethnography, I've realised that stepping back from sport wasn't just about not having the time for physical exercise. It was also about what I believed others thought of me after losing my athletic image due to my academic focus. So the notion of self-exclusion, so where I withdrew because I felt I no longer belonged, this kind of exemplifies Cooley's looking glass self, and is also highlighted in Thedinga's work regarding stigma in sports due to physical appearance. Often I shape myself based on how I think others see me, but sometimes my perception is wrong. And this is my second key takeaway. I don't judge others for their physical appearance, so it's really perplexing to me why I thought others would judge me. I've learned that the loss of identity can evoke strong emotions like embarrassment and shame, and this is something I need to explore further. But what I've also learned is that the fluidity of the identity, you may experience loss at a particular time, but that doesn't mean it's gone forever. There are things you can do to get that identity back. Understanding how my perceived image influences my actions has now given me a newfound confidence to challenge these perceptions, but also to find a balanced, true expression of myself. My story hopefully shows that navigating identity change isn't just about coping, it's about being resilient and also realigning who we think we are with who we would want to be. A colleague's comment resonated me with stepping away from my academic, my sort of academic identity. I admire you for making these decisions. Lots of people talk about it, but few ever do it. And this validated my voluntary exclusion from academia. So this wasn't a negative perspective. Recognising how impactful a person's social identity is within different community settings, as per Tajfel Turner, but also understanding the impact of stigma and how it affects self-perception, especially within sport, means we can create a more inclusive and supportive environment. By leveraging personal stories and experiences such as mine, businesses can foster a culture of empathy and understanding, and this would ultimately enhance employee well-being, engagement, and potentially productivity across all sectors. Thank you very much for listening.